Welcome to the Daily B Show with Matty B, and today's special guest is me. I'm actually probably more nervous about this than any of the 74 shows I've done up until now. Maybe the first few were pretty nerve-wracking, but yeah, just myself today. So basically going to be talking about the Miami trip. So for those that aren't aware, about 3 weeks ago, I think now, I headed over to Florida with a bunch of epic legends and went and saw the 10X Growth Conference that was hosted by Grant Cardone over in Miami at the big baseball stadium down in Miami. And it was a 10-day round trip. So the event only went for like 3 days. So it was pretty full on, the event itself, but the trip as well. So hey guys, thanks for jumping on. Good to see you all here. But yeah, I've been pretty quiet on social media for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Haven't really gotten on and done too much, as I've just been in my own space, just kicking around, letting the experience and different stuff digest. And you don't get nervous, I call bullshit. No, look, I'm good at hiding it. So yeah, thanks for jumping on and hanging out. And all I'm going to go through is basically some of the experiences I had, some epiphanies that came up, some of the challenges, but all in all, well, to start with, the people that I met over there and the times that I had with the crew that I was there with, plus the abundance of people that I was able to meet and the conversations that we were having, was an amazing experience. And I couldn't have done it without the love and support of a whole heap of you guys. And ongoing, that has been one of the challenges in itself for me. But I'll start from the start. So essentially 2 weeks before the event kicked off, there was 6 other people that I knew who were heading over there to Miami. And the way that they were talking about it was that it was one of the best events they've gone to in respect to building up their network, connecting with people in their industry, pushing their businesses forwards to another level. And just the excitement and hype that they built around it just got me really, really excited. And so without any idea of how I was going to make that happen, I just committed to going over. I just knew I wanted to be there, and I didn't have any reason not to give it a crack. Take your shirt off, you'll feel a lot better. Thanks, Belle. Hey, Joey. Hey, guys. But yeah, it just, the way that they were speaking about it just really got my juices flowing, and I really wanted to get over there. So I had no idea on how it was going to happen. I just knew that I was going over there. So I did what I did. I started to put it out there, started to find really out-of-the-box ways of going about it. So I created a GoFundMe account to start creating donations to help me fund the trip. I reached out to different businesses to see if they would sponsor me for the show. I was gonna get sponsors for the show. I reached out to family, to friends, to people that I hadn't even met before to gain their support. And about 2 or 3 days before actually heading over there, still I didn't have anywhere near the funds needed to get over there. I was pretty close, but no, I wasn't even close. So I might have been halfway there. And I just had that moment of doubt of, this probably isn't going to happen. I'm going to have to go back on my word and just accept defeat, so to speak. But at that same time of having that thought, still there was that level of persistence and just like this deep-seated belief that I was going to be there somehow, just trust that it would happen and be okay not knowing the way. I fucking pulled it off. Yeah, I did, Val. And we did. So a big thanks as well to everyone who supported me, who contributed, who believed in me, who were there for my pep talks when I needed them as well. Because I really didn't think it was possible. I sort of did it almost as a joke to myself, like, oh, well, let's see what can happen and how much can come from it and how close we can get. But I never really knew for certain whether it would or wouldn't happen. But along that process of putting it out there, something that really surprised me was the level of support that I got, and from how many people, and not only people that I knew, but from people out there that I'd never met before, people who just saw what I was doing and believed in in me to go ahead and make something happen. And so that took me by surprise, funnily enough, but it was a humbling experience to start with, and one that I'm really, really grateful for, obviously. Now, when it came to actually going and packing my bags and heading over there, I was flying over by myself. It was a 42-hour round trip where I stopped off at Vancouver and Toronto on the way. I was not prepared for Canada at all. They had like snow this thick, and I was wearing my thongs. It just wasn't a good match, but it was really pretty, and it was a really good experience to be in Canada for the first time, meet some Canadians, and just interact with people outside of Australia. But the further I got into it, one of the things that I did was, which a lot of you were aware of, was put out the idea and the challenge of doing 300 interviews over the 10-day period. And the reason I put that out there to begin with was to get sponsors on board. A couple of sponsors. To get sponsors on board to help fund the trip. And that was the goal. The first goal was really to get over there. That was number one, because I wanted to build up my network. I wanted to meet new people. I wanted to connect with people that could potentially help grow the mission that I'm on. And that was the original goal setting out, really like a networking experience. Very quickly I learned that that's not what the purpose of the trip was for, which was another humbling experience and took me quite a while to catch on to, fortunately or unfortunately. But what I found was the very first interview that I did was with a guy that I met on the plane over there. He was a minister for infrastructure, if I'm remembering correctly, and transport in Canada. And so we got off the plane together, we had a chat, I did the interview with him, and straight away I could feel that it just didn't feel right, it didn't feel good. It just had this weird vibe within me when I was doing this interview. And I only did that one on the trip there, and straight away I noticed that when I was talking to people and not leading towards doing an interview, I felt just like I wasn't doing what I was meant to be doing. And when I did do an interview, it felt weird and it felt forced. And so that sort of stayed with me for a few days, where if I wasn't doing interviews, I was feeling guilty for not sticking to my word. And if I was doing them, I felt like I was forcing something that wasn't meant to be happening. So there was this weird dynamic going on, and I was really in my head a lot about it. I didn't really reach out to anyone. I didn't share this with anyone. I just sort of sat with it myself and carried it myself. And I persisted in part with these interviews, with the 300 interviews, but it just wasn't feeling right. So coupled with the trip over there, which really took it out of me, and just being on a different time zone, I was probably running at about 30 to 40% energy for the whole trip. Looking back, like my energy levels were really low. I didn't feel as just as outgoing and as energetic as what I usually am, and I was in my head a lot as well. So we had a couple of days there before we actually went to the event, which we spent basically just hanging around. Had a lot going on. Yeah, I did. We spent around Miami. We cruised around a little bit, saw some sights. Did a few things, spent some time together with the crew that I went over there with, which was really fun. It was an amazing time to get to really know these guys really, really well. Emma, who's on at the moment, and Karen, a few of the others as well. Like the time that we spent, me except for one person had never met in person before, but this was the first time we were all meeting in person, and it's amazing, and it's a testament to how good social media is and the technology we've got to actually connect with people and build connections that are outside our local area, and the depth and level of connections that we're able to create as well. And when we caught up in person, it was just testament to that. We all had barely any sleep. Yeah, we hardly had any sleep any days as well. So then came the actual event, the 10X Growth Conference, which was, it was a spectacle, 35,000 people in this one arena for a business conference, a 3-day business conference. The guy who put the event on, he parachuted in through the roof of the stadium, and there was rappers, there was singers, there was business leaders, thought leaders. It was a rock show blown, mind blowing. Yeah, it was a rock show crossed with a business seminar, which was an awesome experience because that's something that excites me, learning and rocking out at the same time, and to be a part of that, to see what was possible in probably about a 10-year span. The guy who put it on really made his mark and found his own success within a 10-year period, and to have that level of an impact on that many people in such a short period of time really is really inspirational. The conference itself, again, for me, there was a weird energy there. Now, I've been on a pretty steep learning curve the last sort of 12 months, when I really started to look within myself and try and figure out who I am and what I am and what we are and who we all are and what's going on here. And to be in amongst an environment where there's a lot of people not solely, but largely there for themselves, there to sort of do what I set out to do, which was build a network, meet people who could help them. There was a lot of surface level conversations about what you do, what I do, what we're here for, how we can help each other. And really, unless we can help one another, it was pretty swift interactions with people. And just the energy there was overwhelming at times. It brought up a lot of different emotions at times as well. And one of the things that caught me by surprise when I was actually at the event was one of the opening speeches by Grant Cardone, who was hosting the event, and he was talking about how he'd grown up without his father, who passed. I'm pretty sure he said he passed away when he was younger, but he grew up without a dad, and just the impact that had on him. And he was riling off all these statistics about people in prisons that have grown up without fathers, the crime statistics for people that have grown up without fathers, all these different things, that large statistics that are attributed to people that don't have a father. And that's something that I haven't really paid much attention to or given much thought to, hey Joel, or much heedance to with my own life, and in respect to growing up without a father to start with. I mean, I've had father figures throughout the journey, and my dad Ken at the moment, who has been there for 20 odd years, has been a massive part of my life and done an amazing job at being there and contributing in his own way. But I could still really resonate with the troubles and the challenges that come about being in that space. And that was really brought to light at the conference in the middle of 35,000 people. And I got a little bit teary over that. And I think it's sort of planted the seed within me to just identify a little bit more of my own story of where I've been and what I've gone through, and ways that I can draw on that to help others that have either gone through similar or going through similar. So that was a bit of an epiphany right at the very start of the event. But one of the main things which I recognised after the fact, and also I was in a deep space basically since I left, like I said, feeling like I was either feeling guilty or depriving myself of what I thought I needed to do. So I was in my head almost the whole trip, and that's when I basically turned off from social media. Other than the interviews that I did and a few bits and pieces here and there, I really didn't jump online. I didn't speak to many people. I didn't do much, and it's a testament for when we're in our own head. It really is this selfish space, and I don't say selfish in a bad way, but it's a selfish space where we just need, well, okay, I just needed to really nut some shit out. I needed to figure out what was coming up, which this whole experience had a lot of moving parts. But this is part of the reason why I haven't been on social media and doing much stuff for the last few weeks, because it was really digesting this whole experience and figuring out what the fuck a few things were. So, hey guys, thanks for jumping on. Good to see you all still. So one of the things looking back on the whole experience was that I felt really uncomfortable over there. It was emotional, a big train to jump into. Yeah, it was. I felt really uncomfortable because I'd basically achieved something that I didn't think I'd be able to achieve to start with, but just that sense of achievement was something that I wasn't comfortable with. So a lot of people struggle with failure. When people fail, they hit like a bit of a rut and they go through processes and periods where they need to overcome. I'm the opposite. I'm basically a professional failure and working in sales as well. Like, you'll be making 300 calls a day and you might get 2 to 5 sales in a day. So there's a lot of, I've dealt with a lot of rejection, a lot of failure in life, and almost worn it like a badge from time to time. But I recognize success is more uncomfortable for me than failure. And so the fact that I'd banded together so many people to rally behind me to get me there, and got my ass over there off the back of all this support, which when I'm on here and I'm getting all these comments and I get likes, I was thinking about this just before jumping on. It feels a lot different because it's not a real tangible thing. The thing that Miami showed me was there are people that are real people that are really invested in what I'm doing and who really care and love me for who I am and what is happening. And man, that just threw me right out of whack. Basically, as soon as I left, it reared its head. What if you get everything you want? Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, Samantha. What if? I mean, when I get everything I want? Well, again, it's a matter of perspective. My coaching brain turns on and says, well, I've already got everything we want. But it's, yeah, you threw me a bit there. Let me think on that. But yeah, I felt like I was letting people down by not doing these interviews, because that's something that I committed to. And it wasn't for a fair while till I realized that I put that out there. I put the notion of doing these interviews out there because I wanted to get sponsors on board to fund the trip. But it turns out I didn't get any sponsors on board for that reason. I raised the funds through individuals, peers, followers, friends, family. So the purpose of those 300 interviews was all up in my own head. It wasn't something that I was actually committed to anyone else. It's just something that I'd committed myself to, and really for no avail as well. Sabotage creeping 100%. And so until I recognized this, which wasn't until I got back home, it sort of was actually. Throughout the event, I was still doing interviews here and there, but I'd let go of the pressure of actually doing 300 of them. But I was still doing them here and there. But I recognized that I'd achieved the goal that I wanted to achieve, but I hadn't set anything further to work towards. You guys that follow Anthony Robbins might have heard him say that progress equals happiness. Well, I'd gotten to a point where I'd progressed up to this point, and I hadn't set another target for myself to push towards and to progress towards. So I was swimming around in this like cycle, in this circle of what the fuck, I'm here, what am I doing, I'm not doing this, and just sort of a clusterfuck of mind chatter that wasn't serving me. Now, a few of the people that I was there with, when I did explain this to them after the fact, were a bit bewildered. They felt like I was full of energy and they didn't recognize. But I think we can all attest to being good at putting on a smile and putting some sort of a foot forwards where we can mask what's really going on underneath. So I've spooked this a lot on a lot of my videos in the past to reach out to people, and after speaking to a lot of people that are close to me about my experience as well, the first question was, why didn't you reach out to me and connect? But I think we all do it in our own time, and I do recognise that now, having spoken to people sooner, I think I could have sped up this process quicker. But I also recognise that if I didn't open up to people when I did, which was a little bit during it towards the end and when I got back from Miami, that I could have been swirling in this cycle for weeks to months. And I recognise that I had done that in like years past, where I could be in this spot of somewhat of a rut for months at a time, because I used to not open up to people. I used to just carry it and wear it. Was a 300 an expectation on yourself that you subconsciously knew was unachievable? I tend to set unrealistic goals. I don't think it was unachievable. No, I think that it was definitely achievable. I mean, it was 30 interviews a day, and 30 interviews at 5 minutes an interview is not very much. So I think there was an element of fear that was in that held me back from approaching a lot of people to jump in straight for an interview. Maybe a bit of a fear of rejection mixed in with that as well. And yeah, it was definitely achievable. It was a big fucking ask, but it was achievable. Ruts last minutes, anything after that is a habit. Craig. Yeah, definitely. And that's what I recognised as well, was these are all habitual patterns that I've worked on many times before and continue to, but rear their head from time to time, and obviously shining a light on things that I've still got areas to work on and things to open up. Well, opening up is one of the things that I've got to work on still. And like the whole notion of doing whatever makes your asshole sweat is a part of that. It's figuring out what scares the shit out of us, figuring out where our patterns lie, figuring out what are cycles that keep coming up, and facing them, admitting to them, acknowledging them, and then getting people around us that have either dealt with them in the past and overcome them, or who have managed to help others do the same. So it's a ever dynamic process. No matter what breakthroughs I seem to have or the others seem to have, it's always yeah, that's it. It's always met with the next hurdle. So yeah, I guess that's another testament why it's a good reason to open up about where we're at, is because it's by not opening up, we're just prolonging the inevitable. And the sooner we can open up about what's going on right now, the sooner we can face the next challenge. So, challenge accepted. Yeah, so back to the journey with respect to figuring this stuff out. It was, man, I was way out of my comfort zone, and just the lack of energy as well shone a light on how important it is to really eat healthy, have enough sleep, be around people that really lift you up, which was another thing for me coming back, is being amongst the energy at the event. Although it was a massive adrenaline rush, the actual energy of a lot of the time was a bit of a weird, dense sort of tension in there. And also acknowledging that there's people in our lives that pick us up, and there's people in our lives that just bog us down. And for me, it's so important for me to have amazing people around me, and to keep these people who are full of energy, full of positivity, full of appreciation and encouragement. Like these guys, and everyone who is watching or is going to watch this, that you know exactly who the fuck you are. And if you're wondering, well, maybe that's something to look at. And also, it makes me think about the way I am around people as well. Really noticing and seeing how people are around me and how people lift me up. I just want to be a champion for others as well, and energy vampires, yeah, bro. And I want to make a concerted effort to be the cheerleader for the people that are in my circle and in my network, and lift people up. So that's another focus that I've come away with. The main things that I think I took away from the event, and this is in hindsight, like during the event, I felt like I was running on low energy and just really treading water throughout the experience, doing my best to live in the moment and experience things as I was in it, instead of always whipping out the video or the camera as well. Meeting people and really trying to have meaningful conversations with people instead of conversations that led to an interview or led to something. That's something that I recognised was important, which was also allowed me to drop the notion of doing 300 interviews. But then also setting another goal as well. That was really imperative. So one thing I've done with Chris Duncan, who's a coach of mine, is set like 3 or 4 goals beyond the one we're actually aiming towards. And so throughout that process of, it's actually at the event where I really started to introduce myself as a public speaker, even though I've only really done online speaking majority of the time and a little bit of seminar, or speaking, whatever you call that. But I really started to lean into that because I know that that's one of the next goals that I'm working towards attaining and achieving, is being out there and presenting from stage and presenting in webinar format and online, and using all those stages as spaces and containers to actually deliver information and share stories, inspiration, information that's going to help people around me do what they do better. So setting that next goal of touring the States later on this year was something that really got solidified when I was over there. So I recognised, like I said, that I didn't have something to work towards, and that's when throughout the journey over there I was able to really start leaning into what I was doing next. And before the flight back home even, I was already planning the next trip, which is really exciting. And also it allowed me the mindset of then figuring out the people that I was meeting, how I could assist them in what they were doing, which was really cool. I felt like I discovered a bit of a purpose while I was over there, which before that I didn't feel like I had one. Well, I felt like it was the 300 interviews, which made me feel shit. Yeah. So the journey back, fuck, I was so tired. Went to Montreal and slept on one of the airport chairs. I was there for like a 12-hour stopover, and it was snowing again. It was so cold. Vancouver, and a lot of thinking time, a lot of time to be in my own space, and getting back as well. Cold feet, such cold feet, and getting back to Australia, and getting back with that newfound purpose and direction. Was really good. You really do give us value, 10x brother, and all this is free. There's amazing content. Thanks, Val. Yeah, this example of people that lift me up. Yeah, I really love it. So I haven't been I haven't been on here for a while, and one of the things that really blew my mind was how so often in our mind, things seem like these big fucking concepts, these big problems, like these big ideas, but what we don't realize is that people around us don't really give a fuck. People are so focused on what they're doing in their own lives that they actually don't really give a fuck, with love, about what you're doing. And although they care about your well-being, they care that you're doing your best, that you're okay, their focus is really on themselves, which it should be. It should be on themselves. Meeting you was one of the highlights of the trip for me. Trevor, you're a fucking legend as well. Yeah, same, bro. And I'm looking to catch up in Canada when I come back as well. So I did spend the last few weeks in my own space, being okay that I wasn't online and doing the content that I was doing at the rate that I was doing it at. And and knowing also that the time that I had spent within my own space was actually going to be of massive value to the people that are following me, to the people that do digest the content that I put out there, because it's yet another experience that I'm able to speak on and to use in other situations with my clients, with my followers and friends and family, for when they're going through something similar. So everything's perfect exactly the way it is, and that's a presupposition that I really do hold, and I do believe that we don't always have the conscious understanding or the rationale of where we are, where we're going, what's happening. But when you just know that, number one, the universe is always in balance. It's always in balance. So for an up, there must be a down. For a right, there must be a left. For a hot, there's a cold. All right. And so when we can't see where the light is, we just know that it's going to be there. When we're at a low point, we know that there's a high coming down. You can't have a peak of a wave without a crest as well. So that's something that really does allow me to really sit in the moments of sit in my lows and just really be observant in those spaces. I really am able now to give myself permission to be there and almost enjoy them, in a sense of like, I watch myself from the eyes of someone that I'm going to be maybe speaking to on that experience, or I observe myself in this. Okay, this is a good analogy. So I remember when I was in acting school, they really taught us to observe ourselves and our emotions. And my acting teacher said one day he went through this. I think someone in his family died, and he was overwhelmed with emotion, tears streaming down his face, and actually stopped walking down the street and looked at himself through at his reflection in the window to see what he looked like, and as he felt those feelings, so he could portray that again in his theatre. And it's sort of like that. It's like when I'm feeling happy or sad or up or down or side to side, whatever, I come from this space of really observing where I'm at, so I can recreate the story when needed, or relate to people and empathise with people who may be going through similar. And inspiration for me and me. Oh, thanks, Benny boy. Appreciate it, bro. And that's something that I was not wasn't able to do for a long time. I recognise where this tangible space, these emotions and these thoughts that we have, I remember when I was in a space when that was reality. This is everything. And when we're in those, when we're at an ecstatic level, it feels like this is life. This is what it's always meant to be like. When we're in our lows, it's like this is what it's always going to be like. And we can't see a way out. But when you hold these presuppositions of the universe is always in balance, so for an up there's a down, I might not know or be able to see where the positive is from that, but I know it's there. That really allows me to just be in the moment and allow me to experience it without creating a further destruction within my own mind that needs to be had. Because I know that back in the day, I and many people have tendencies that when something's going wrong, we exacerbate the situation by coming up with all the more fucked up things that are going to potentially happen, or all the other things that can go wrong from it, instead of just allowing it to be in that space and letting it be its own thing and observing that thing. So I'm really grateful for being in this space now and being able to observe life from that viewpoint, and also be able to share that with others and allow others to do the same. I rarely have lows anymore. I'm usually just on 24/7. Beautiful, bro. Well, that is something that we're going to have to chat about further. Yeah, so what else? The caliber of people, there was some amazing people. There was some amazing people at this event and in Miami that we met. Miami's really cool as well, off point. The Hispanic culture over there is fucking banging. It's really, really cool. It reminds me a lot of the Gold Coast, actually, palm trees, beaches, sunshine, beautiful people everywhere. So it's similar, similar to the Gold Coast. You swear a lot? Yeah, I do. Thanks, son. The level of conversation that we were having in a business sense was amazing to be a part of, just to see people that had been in business for many years, people that had done many things and achieved certain results in all sorts of fields, just to see how they think and what their mindset's like is there's always something to learn. There really, really is. And so it was a massive download of all sorts of other people's experiences. And I felt like I hardly spoke. I felt like I did a lot of listening throughout the journey, to my own inner voice and to those around me. What else can I share? I think coming back, it's like TED Talks with you. Well, hopefully before too long, cross our fingers and toes, I'll have a real TED Talk to share with you guys. I think it's really important to have a few goals set in place. Like once we achieve the goal we're setting out to, what's the next one or two that we're going to be striving for? That's something that I really learnt to value and experience. Being okay with where we're at and not putting undue pressure on ourselves to be what we think other people want us to be. And that was with the process of allowing myself space just to be offline, not to do content and videos, not to feel pressured by it. I also feel like the big thing that, like, the main thing that really got me uncomfortable was succeeding, right? Was that level of success. And it wasn't that getting over to Miami was a success. It was seeing the tangible evidence of so many people that, the tangible evidence that so many people got behind me and supported me. That's the big success that made me feel really uncomfortable. I'm gonna have to get used to that. It's a good problem to have. I'll give it that. And so another thing is that what it really showed me, this whole experience, was really putting weight into a future destination, letting go of the how-to, not relying on a how-to, and not needing a how-to to be clear before committing to something. And not just committing to something by saying, I'm going to do it, committing to something within your entire being of just allowing yourself to know that that thing is a possibility, and not only a possibility, but it's already happened. It's just time's got to catch up to that. Because if you speak to people like that, you sort of sound like a crazy person, and you need to allow yourself to speak to yourself like a bit of a crazy person. But what I've said to a few people recently is that, like, the future is an illusion no matter what. The future is not real. It's never here. We've only got the here and the now. So we can choose to think realistically or think negatively about the future. We get the choice to think about the future in whatever light we want. So no matter what way you're thinking about the future, it's all a dreamtime, illusory thought pattern, no matter how realistic you think it may be. So we may as well think as far as our minds and our imagination can stretch to take us in creating the most ideal situation to put that out into the future. Because even when I've done that, even when I do that, I recognize now that my imagination is still limited, and there's even better than what my imagination can put out there. So if I'm going to imagine a future, I'm just going to imagine what I feel is the most ideal situation I possibly can. But then in that process of putting that out and creating that destination in the future, I'm also going to let go of it and not be attached to it. Because when I let go of that attachment, it allows me then to be in this moment, trusting that I've already created the future. That's there. I don't need to know the how to. That's going to present itself as it comes, and then just really being in the here and the now. So I've had a few experiences of late where I felt that there is this connection between everyone, and people talk about, oh, we're one with the universe and this and that. And I'm sure you've all got your own philosophies and ways of speaking on it. Now, I've had experiences where I've taken plant-based medicines and different substances to explore the mind, which show all different experiences in that sense. But seeing on this conscious level, with no substance and nothing to explore the mind with, that people band together when you create that future destination, and the universe really is conspiring in your favor. It really is giving us everything we need, which is another one of the presuppositions I hold, that again, consciously we might not know what we're getting at the time, but we are always, if you know it and you believe it, that you're always getting what you need, then you can let go of the need to know how as well, or the need to know what it is, and be okay not knowing some of the time. So although yes, I still have this sense of control and need to, look left and right before I cross the road because I don't want to get hit by a bus, and there's this sense of control within my life. There's also a lot to be said about the letting go and the trusting in just that we are always getting exactly what we need and allowing it to unfold in front of us. And that's been a big thing that was showed to me throughout this trip as well. Yeah. In a big way. And what I also noticed is a part of the drawback of me feeling low on energy, going through the monkey mind for a while, is also the ego backlash, where because I had this tangible experience of how this all works harmoniously together now, that rips out a part of my ego that I thought I knew, and completely transforms and creates this new identity around how things operate. And the ego doesn't like to die or doesn't like to be fucked with. It's spent years and years creating this sort of intertwined belief system and habitual patterns and things to make it the way it is, to keep itself alive, that when we rip off a part of it and fill it with a new belief system or understanding or habit, there's that drawback, the ego backlash, that tries to draw us back into the old ways. So it was also an experience in observing that happen, and just observing the process and the time it took, observing the different things around me that have attributed to that. Like, I'm out in nature now. I really felt like I needed to be around nature and around some greenery. The concrete city was just not doing it for me. So there's just certain different aspects that I know my body needed and my mind and my soul needed to really realign itself, and just sit with this new perspective and these new, I guess, philosophies on how things are operating around me, which was a process all in itself. But all in all, Miami, what a fucking profound experience it was. I thought I was going there to network and meet people, which I did. I fucking networked my ass off. I met a bunch of people. I think I added over 500 people just to my Facebook alone that fortnight, and have connected personally with a lot of them. I've created potential business partners in the future. I've got potential sponsors to come on board for the show and for different things. Now, what's come out of it with respect to moving forwards is this purpose-driven life of actually collaborating with as many people as possible to share that message, that believe in yourself, express yourself authentically, evolve consciously. That really is the cycle of it for me for what I see evolving. And I'm being drawn back to America for one reason or another, but what I see and what I envision is this 12-month tour of doing 2 laps of America and collaborating with different business leaders, thought leaders, industry leaders, and putting them on stage and creating this container for them to share their stories and to share their wisdom and their gifts with their local communities, on topics like mindset, personal development, business and marketing, science, health, wealth, all the above, and really helping collaborate and connect with everyone to really do my part to instill whatever needs to be instilled for people to believe in themselves, to follow their passions, believe in their business, and their business being themselves, not like number one. Whether you're an employee or a business owner, your business is yourself. Like, we all have a financial statement and need to understand what a financial statement is, whether it's our household financial statement or our business one. And the more we can work towards that that space of self-actualization, of really fulfilling our core driving purpose and passions, the more we're able to contribute to our local communities, to our friends, to our families, and to the world at large. So I'm going to be putting on and creating this container of live events to showcase all these people around America. I'm going to be traveling around with the Daily Beast Show to interview people, and just see where it unfolds. So that's the destination that I've set, and it's exciting. I've got a few radio interviews coming up to sort of spread the word around Australia. I'm going to be doing a few articles in some newspapers as well. I'll be heading over and doing a few podcasts and a few interviews on the radio stations in America before we head over. I'm putting together a team. I've got started filming already the documentary that I'm going to be selling to Netflix, is the dream for that as well. So just documenting the journey of what's possible, to give people the understanding, the, I guess, belief within themselves that it doesn't matter where you are now or where you've been, that anything really is possible. And fucking go hard, aim high. It's not like what they say, if you aim for the stars, if you miss, at least you'll hit the moon. No, fuck that. It's like, if you aim for the stars and you miss, at least you'll hit another galaxy. And just giving people the tools and resources to better manage thoughts, feelings and emotions throughout their own journeys. Giving people the tools in business and in life to create a prosperous one for themselves, their families and their communities, and to create resources for people to grow, so they're in better position to contribute to the world around them. And I've said 1 billion people, so people talk about 1 million, but I like billion. I like a B in it, and it's really not that much as well. If I inspire 1,000 people to buy into my mission, which isn't even my mission, I've bought into my mentors' missions. Okay, but if I inspire 1,000 people to buy into my mission, and they join me and do the same thing and share that with 1,000 people, and then they do it and share that with 1,000 people, that's 1 billion people, right there. It's not that far. Like, we don't. It's mind-boggling how much of an impact we have. Like, there's a lot of people on here who I know have over 1,000 people on their Facebook page alone. The amount of people that you've been to school with and university with, and the amount of colleagues that you've had, the way you. Oh, a little bit of a call. Well, that's inconvenient, but anyway, roll with the times. Let's see if it happens again. Yeah, the amount of people we've got in our lives and we've already been a part of, it's you've already influenced over 1,000 people, and the way we wake up every morning impacts that. The way we wake up in the morning impacts that. It really does. So it was W. Edwards Deming who essentially he introduced what's now known as Deming systems into Japan after the World War, and Japan got messed up. Obviously, most of you probably know that by the World War, and for a country that has very minimal natural resources, they're big on human resources, and what he was able to do with the government and with big businesses was introduce a systematized approach to business and government, and they set these 10-year, decade-long goals. And through, well, where am I getting with this? What did I bring up? Deming. Oh yeah, that's right. and so he really transformed the way Japan does business. In decades they became the number one car manufacturer. They become the number one technology manufacturer. They become the number, like, you look up, they become number one in the world in whatever field they moved into in each decade since then. And one of the things that Deming says that 97% of, or 90 to 97% of your results come from the first 15% of your process, sort of the 80-20 principle. So you look at the first 15% of your day. If that's going to attribute to most of your success, then take that first 15%, extrapolate it, look at that first 15%, and do that a few times down until you really get so clear on the first 15% of the first 15% of the first 15%, and that is going to drastically improve whatever situation and system you're using, whether it be your day, your business, your call structure, your lead generation, whatever it might be. But what I'm getting to is, if we can create our life into a system where we wake up energized, enthusiastic, passionate, purposeful, all these things, if we wake up in those states and start our day in those ways, then that's going to have a massive impact on an influence on every single person that you come into contact with in that day alone. So that's just one of the concepts that we're going to be sharing, that I'm going to be really pushing and driving in inspiring people to really look at, to do what they can to invigorate change and prosperity within their local community as well. I think the cyclone's coming. You guys, I think I'm ready to wrap up pretty soon. If you guys have any questions, oh shit, hour goes quick when you're having fun. A shout out to all the people that have been here, supported me along the journey so far. I was really overwhelmed actually by the amount of people I did connect with. When I started doing videos, let me know if it gets too windy. The first point of overwhelm when I started doing videos was the amount of comments that I was getting. It blew me away, and I didn't know how to handle it. I was like, holy shit, I was literally spending all day responding back to people, texting people back and replying, and it was overwhelming. And then I got a few tips from a few people that are further ahead than me, and sort of learned to manage that. And then I went to Miami and I introduced 500 people to my fucking list plus. And then I got overwhelmed on a bigger level of how to interact and respond and give people so much time. And for someone that values, and my biggest love language is quality time. So this texting back and forwards, honestly, I fucking hate it. I don't like it. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. Okay, hate's a strong emotion. I don't hate it. It just doesn't fill my cup. It empties my cup. Spending quality time, which I feel like this is sort of quality time with you guys that are watching and people watching the replay, but really one-on-one interactions or one to a few is really what gets me going and what fills my cup. So it has been a massive learning curve, learning how to give people the time and let people know that I see them and that I appreciate them and that I care and that I'm so fucking grateful. So please, if I haven't, you don't feel like that, please know that I love you. Feel free to contact me, and I'm always up for a chat, although time is limited. But there's some really fucking exciting things. I've really quietened my space over the last few weeks. I've allowed myself time to digest. I've allowed myself time to take on new learnings, to go through certain experiences, and to put together another pathway, which is really exciting as well. So, like I said, I'm planning a trip that is going to start around April, May this year. Sooner if I can, but that's where I've planned for. to head over to the States and start touring around. Myself and Samantha Moyer are putting together group coaching called Be Fierce, and it's all about this, giving less fucks about the things that don't matter and more about the things that do, and really facing life and being fierce on the journey of where you're at, being fierce in being yourself, and letting go of judgment, being fierce in your pursuit of fulfillment, of your own peace of mind, of your own happiness, your own prosperity, and being fierce in contributing to the world around you, to your friends, to your family, to community at large, and to the world around you, and just going hard. And going hard doesn't necessarily mean getting 3 hours sleep each night and working 100 hours a day and hustle. Okay, it's going hard in all areas, finding balance and really being fierce at who you are, like what is really going to serve you best. So wait to hear more on that. We do have a free group that we've started up called the I Don't Give a Fuck Club, #IDG Fuck Club, which is just more of the concept, a bit more of a bit more of a laugh, a little bit more lighthearted, but essentially the same message is giving less fucks about the things that don't matter and more about the things that do. One of my coaches, Marshall Thurber, absolute genius. He said a lot of people spend too much time worrying about the low priority bullshit instead of the high priority topics. And a lot of the people that I work with and a lot of people that I speak to, it's just that. It's we've bought into the game of what to give a fuck about, which is insurance ads all over the television, news reports telling us how messed up the world seemingly is, people complaining about their jobs every time we go out for a drink, all these things that we're just surrounded by, and it's not your fault that you think the way you do and you feel the way you do, but there is answers to every question, which is a really exciting thing too. But guys, I could waffle all day, and I love how you indulge me, but I'm going to leave it there. You make me tear up, Matt. All that freedom. Yeah, thanks, Charlotte. I love you too, hun. Love that book. And guys, I do have a couple of books coming out, which will be released on the 15th of March, January, February, March. Yep. So look out for them. The first one is called the Get Fucked and Do It Your Anyway. The Get Fucked and Do It Anyway method, and the second one is Get Fucked Your Own Way, which sounds exciting. I am actually contemplating, talking about I don't give a fuck, is I'm about to travel through the Bible Belt of America, and I do drop some F-bombs, and I have been warned a few times already about my profanity and how I'm going to be met, but I guess we'll see how that unfolds as we go through as well. Oh gosh, it's exciting. I'm really nervous, I'm really excited, I'm really thrilled to see what unfolds ahead of us. You will be seeing me a lot more online again and jumping and doing a lot more content. It really isn't about me. The part that's about me is my own self-discovery and my own journey of discovering the self. The rest of it is just a game. This is all a game. It really is a game. And so it's like when you play Monopoly, you just go hard. You don't give a fuck. This is what we're at. This is the game. So it's time to enjoy the game a little bit more. And that's what I'll be sharing. So I love you guys. Thank you for being a part of this with me. Thank you for your ongoing support. Reach out and let's have some fucking fun. Love you guys. Bye.